Thanks for joining us today on Coastal and Progressive Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio. Today we will be speaking with Chris Gilbert. He is a write-in candidate for Manatee County District 5 County Commissioner. Welcome, Chris, and it's so good to have you today. Tell us a little, and first I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and we're going to go into some of your background here. You have an excellent environmental background, of course, and we're so thrilled to have you here on our radio today.
Well, thank you for taking the time to interview me about a really grassroots campaign that could not have been possible without Democrats all over the county scrambling to help me, a very late filer into this game. They dropped what they were doing and scrambled to help me get on the ballot. I didn't make it this time, but it was my own fault that I didn't. Certainly not the fault of Democrats all over the county, and I really appreciate their help.
So, Chris, I want you to tell us a little bit about your background, where you went, where you were from originally, and some of your education background and some of your past experience and things. And we have a lot to cover here, so I'm going to let you start out there.
Go ahead. I will go right ahead here. I'm a graduate of Eckerd College. I specialized in environmental history, and my advisor in that program was Mr. Jack Davis, who, as you may know, recently won the Pulitzer Prize for his book, The Gulf, Making of an American Sea, and also a senior project I did in African American cultural survival has really informed my values through the years. In 2015, I was appointed to Bradenton's Tree and Land Preservation Board, and we help people plant trees and educate people about trees. But I was the chair for 2 straight years, and under my chairmanship, we expanded the scope of the board. We reached out to other cities like the Trees Atlanta organization and expanded education and gathered support in the community, especially from the arts community at the Manatee Arts Center. We conducted workshops and had a lot of positive feedback, raising awareness about manatees' fragile ecosystems. And we were just on the verge of expanding to legislative recommendations for the Florida legislature. And I think I told you about this when I was sending you some narrative before the interview. The board passed a motion advising the state legislature and the governor to veto the land bill where all the new roads are going to be constructed, the so-called roads to nowhere. The board passed that, and the next meeting we were going to be writing the letter and getting it sent off and such. And current county commissioner in Manatee County, Misty Servia, is the person who made that motion. And she wasn't there to defend it, though, which was regrettable. So I was left to defend that motion, and the city, this is what we're up against is a very carefully organized network from the state level to the local level that is pro-development. And when we were due to go into that meeting and start writing that resolution language, the city of Bradenton actually tried to block my entrance into the council chamber where I was going to conduct a meeting. A policeman was there. He blocked my entrance into the meeting and berated me and told me he had a loaded weapon. And, at that moment, that's when the rubber really hits the road, because that's state enforcement of their agenda. And I probably would have been arrested if it weren't for another board member who has since passed away since last November. She shouted at the officer and asked him if he was serious, and my other board members really jumped in to help me get through that. But my candidacy is about environmental activism. It's about transparency, but it's also about kindness, because a lot of residents are telling me that Even county employees are telling me privately that our incumbent is not a civil person to deal with. She shuts down conversations. She ignores people. She talks over them. Certainly, the reason I got into the race so late is because I had an idea to help women entering the workforce here to get some further training to follow up with the COVID, to recover from COVID to unemployment. And I was laughed at and blocked on social media. And all I was doing was asking for the issues to be discussed. I wasn't demanding a resolution on anything, but I certainly wanted it to be talked about. And it's just it's an act of resistance for anybody here to just suggest something that isn't pro-development, low taxes, and socially regressive, especially like with the police funding and such. They look at police funding reform as defunding the police, and of course we know that that's not what it is at all. I have a slogan. I want people to write in Chris Gilbert for District 5, but I've got the slogan MAP, Make America Possible. We hear a lot about Make America Great Again, but we don't have to make America great again. We just have to get out of the way with all these regressive social and tax policies. And if we make America possible, then the dream of America will be widespread, available to people. So I would just say if to improve our community, get together online and in public forums. For example, a coalition of black and white citizens brought Manatee County's illegal and unconstitutional curfew down. And that was a real model. We did this in April. It was a real model for all kinds of change that can follow. It was something that was subtle. There's not a lot of hoopla about it, but both black and white activists joined hands at the county commission meeting in April. And along with the ACLU, we got the curfew, which targeted African American communities more than any other. We got that deleted from the public forum there. Register and vote. So many things are possible. You just never know how the universe is going to create change, and you have to just constantly focus on the change, not on self-interest, not on if you're going to win an election or not. That's my message to people. Get out there, register to vote, and get involved, even if it's just going to a demonstration. Of course, demonstrate peacefully, because any violence that you have or any kind of insults that you give to people or name calling, that's going to be seized upon. And as we saw with Fox News and all of their media network, it's going to just be beaten up in the media if we don't be very good Quakers about this. I would say very peaceful demonstrations. Excellent.
Chris, I'm going to interrupt you here a second. I'm going to throw something in here for you to talk more about. I got several questions here. I was making some notes here as you were talking that I wanted to be sure you bring out. I'm going to give you an example on the tree issue. And of course, if anybody, this is so basic. The trees and the plants produce the oxygen we breathe. How much more basic can we get? And I'm going to give you an example of how disappointed I was. I won't name the church here because it's here in Bradenton, but there's a church that's been here for a long time. They had this beautiful banyan tree directly across the street from them on an empty lot. And they used the empty lot for parking. That banyan tree, believe it or not, it must have been 100 or more years old. The thing was absolutely enormous. And beautiful tree. People went there to get their picture taken and things like this. But they wanted to expand their parking lot. And you can guess what happened. As I drove by, because I drive by it frequently, and I could not believe I was driving by, and I said, well, maybe they're just going to trim it back some. And then next day it came back, it was even more down. I thought, oh, no, they're going to leave at least part of that thing. They cannot kill that whole thing, and it was gone. The whole tree was cut down. Absolutely beautiful tree, And the parking lot they're building, how many parking spaces? The point is, they got 3 or 4 extra parking spaces, maybe 5 at the most. But they had other places where they could put parking. They don't have that much parking anyway. And I was just appalled by it. Absolutely. And a lot of my neighbors were too. They said, that tree is gone. That was so beautiful. And the thing was, the tree is on the west of the main entrance to the church, which in the afternoons and evenings and so forth, it shaded that church, you know. And plus, it was so beautiful. The tree was absolutely beautiful, and it was ancient. And just to kill it like that, I thought was unconscionable. And for what? And what did they gain? Now they ended up, they got their paid parking lot there, which I don't have any problem with that. But the point was, they lost a beautiful piece of history there alongside what they were doing. So we got so many people here too, and that just all they think about is kill, kill, kill. And I mean, as far as the trees go, you know, and trying to keep some of the natural environment in Florida, you know, it's sad. It really is. And I certainly can commend you so much for being on the tree commission and what you did there and tried to accomplish. We need more of this. We need more people to wake up and realize, you know, that if we want to keep well, I could go into the whole issue of climate change. That's another issue, but let's talk about you more. So I was, and here you brought up, you know, the ACLU and the Black and White coalitions working together here. I know that I walked in some of the demonstrations too, and when we were trying to get people educated about some of the problems we have here too. So go back and tell a little bit more about if we could get you elected in the write-in campaign in District 5 there, what could be some of your priorities that you would like to see accomplished in that area and for the county and for what you could do to improve District 5? And one of the things I do know, I've heard people say this too, directly, indirectly to me, about the unkindness of some of the current administration that we have. I certainly have seen it firsthand too.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. But before I answer, I just want to commend you and applaud you for your sensitivity about the tree that Vedic legend says the Buddha was born under a banyan tree. And what you've tapped into is the spiritual connection between people and nature. Greg Stubbe sponsored a law, and it got passed at the legislature that gives private property owners the right to just tear down anything they want, whether it's native or non-native or invasive, what have you. And you're right, for convenience, you know, one of my friends used to say, we kill for convenience in this country. And there's no better example of that than the story that you told about the church and the banyan tree. In my campaign, and when I'm elected, it's going to be one of the main things is to bring civility back to the operations on that board, and also to incorporate dissent. All the failures of the board can be traced to its insular, territorial nature, where they just refuse to even listen to dissent. And of course, I'd be coming it from the opposite way. The people who would be dissenting from my views would be supportive of my incumbent, you know, low taxes, heavy police presence everywhere to intimidate people. I would not ignore them. You can't. The best laws come from incorporating dissent and making laws that way. Talking to county employees, I tried to get some information on the budget, and Jan Brewer at the budget